Hello, everybody, and welcome to the June 24th Trips and Traps. I'm Andy Serling, joined by Eric Donovan.
Two segments to bring you this week, two races in each segment. We'll get things started off with June 15th, the first race, and we're going to look at the 6-horse Vose the Host. It's a 25 claimer going 6 furlongs. And what's interesting about Vose the Host, he's coming back off a long layoff in here, and if you remember him to last year, he's a horse that liked to come from well out of it.
Yeah, and he's a horse that had been very fortunate in his 2 wins because, as Eric pointed out, not only did he have absolutely no speed, he got a supersonic pace in one of them. The other one was a race that collapsed his debut, but he seemed to be a bit of a different horse coming off the layoff.
Yeah, I was very surprised to see where he was at this point in the race. I mean, this is a horse that last year you would have expected to have been last at this point, but he's up chasing the pace in third position here, some kind of tactic that he's never shown before.
Yeah, it wasn't a monstrously fast pace, and Wise Stop, who took about $1 zillion worth of late money, was able to dictate the pace. But as Eric said, Vose was a different horse in this race, and Bobby Barbera, his trainer, has been very hot early in this meet with a relatively limited number of starters. Vose the Host was ready to win this day, and I think that's one of the problems, because not only does he have the trouble, which everybody saw, but he was really ready to win this day. Do you want him next time?
That's the thing. He was betting this race, too. He went off, I think, 9-2 off that layoff. And one of the things with Vose the Host here is you see he's not used to being in this position, so he's having a little bit of a hard time keeping up with these horses at the top of the stretch, and that's going to cost him some position here as he finds his way, in between a triangle of horses there, and he's going to get some traffic trouble.
Yeah, and I also think he's in a position which is hard to accelerate. When you're inside behind horses as well, it's hard for a horse to really have that acceleration. As you can see, once he gets to the outside, at this point, he had some run. Jose Lescano knew he wasn't doing anything at that point, and it just sort of was over at that point. Vose the Host is a horse that I just feel like everybody's going to like him next time, but I can understand why.
Yeah, I can see why, too, and I guess you just have to see what his odds are and what he runs up against. And, I'd like to see him go back to the tactic that's been successful for him, which is coming from off the pace. And, hopefully if you like him, then you'll get some kind of fair pace scenario up front where you can go back to that tactic. And look, maybe one of the reasons why he was up so close is because A, maybe he was fresh off the layoff, but B, they didn't see much other speed on pace.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with you on that.
No?
I think he showed a new dimension. I would like to think he doesn't have to be victimized by paces. I mean, you don't want to have a horse that has absolutely no speed and he needs to get a fast pace to win. I'd like to think that he's a better horse this year, which means he can put himself a little bit more in the game. And I think if you look at his next race and there isn't an abundance of speed, he still may be able to be effective.
Yeah, well, he's an interesting horse moving forward, no doubt. We'll see what he does second off the layoff. Bob Barbera, the second race we'll take a look at in this first segment is the 5th race from June 18th, and this is a maiden special weight for New York bred 3-year-olds and up on the turf going a mile on the 16th. We're going to look at the 4 Shardy, a first for Christophe Clement, and the 12 Windl.
Yeah, the 4 Shardy was the best. Well, the best horse in this race was the 1 who finished second, but everybody knows that. So Shardy ran very well. Now, Windl is sort of buried in the outside. You'll see him in kind of light blue silks. I got a couple of people asked me about Windl, and I had some complaints about him. And to be honest, in watching again, Shardy was the horse you want out of this race. And I thought Alex Solis gave Windl as good a ride as you could give a horse. He had post 12. Horses ended up going to lead. He could have either gunned the horse, in which case I don't think he would have won. But otherwise, geez, he tucks him into a perfect spot, Eric. And first of all, let me just show you where the 4 is. Shardy has to break a little bit slowly. That's okay, because the winner comes from dead last. Windl is right there. What could be a better spot? And then he tucks in too wide in the turn. He got a good trip.
Yeah, I mean, he looked like maybe he'd end up a little wide going down the backstretch going into the far turn, but Solis did a great job in here easing him back off the pace a little bit and dropping him down toward the inside. And, he'll have some trouble, some traffic issues, around the quarter pole top of the stretch there, but, they quickly alleviate, and there's a ton of room down inside in which he could have made a big run through the stretch, and just didn't happen there for Windl. And we'll see Shardy now moving up along the inside, getting into closer contention.
Yeah, and Shardy will get stayed out a little bit after that as well. If you keep your eye on him on the inside, he's down right in there. But yeah, and yeah, all right, we know that okay, here's Shardy, and once again, there's Windl. Yes, we understand if Windl had been able to angle off the rail and get the absolute 100% perfect trip, maybe he would have been happier being unencumbered the outside. But considering how bunched the field was in the stretch, and as Eric said, it wasn't a slim hole he was trying to go through. He had a ton of room on the inside, and he just couldn't outrun these horses. It was Shardy, because Shardy goes to angle out as they come in the stretch, which you're going to see. Windl is that comfortable spot. Shardy's on the rail right now. He goes to the outside looking for room, comes back inside, finally finds some room, and is flying at the end. Shardy's back here. Windl's right there, but Windl's going to find that seam. Shardy's going to go towards the outside, as you'll see, looking for a spot, and I think the ride by Gabriel Saya is not the wrong move. He's thinking I can get to the outside and get room. Well, the doors are shut. He can't get through there. He's not close enough to get through, and he doesn't find a seam till too late. there's Windl down on the rail. I mean, you could drive a truck through there, and he just doesn't have a major close.
At least 3 passes there that he could have come, that he had a chance to come through. So certainly not a traffic issue down the stretch. And you see Shardy getting closer at the end. I think maybe one of the things that people might have been upset about is you looked at this race on paper and you thought Windl was going to be lone speed. And I think the race played out a little bit differently than most people expected because there are a few other horses that went to the lead here. Not like they crawled on the front end either. So I think that's why if people were upset about the ride on Windl, that might be the reason. I don't think that's fair to blame Solis for that.
Absolutely not. I made a big bet on Herschel who finished second, and if Windl had gone the lead and he was able to comfortably sit second, I believe he would have won, and I won a lot of money. So I'm sorry he didn't go to the lead, but the ride that Alex gave him was a good one. Windl's an okay horse, and he'd run well the time before, and we're not saying he can't win going forward, but I would not move him up off this effort. Shardy's the one who probably moves up in his next start.
All right, well, that'll do it for this first segment of Trips and Traps. Once again, we appreciate your viewer comments, and you can send us a note at tripsandtraps@NYRAinc.com.
Come back for the second segment.